When Professor Walker informed us that she was organizing a TEDx conference around the issue of food insecurity and undernutrition, I immediately thought that the food stamp challenge would be an interesting way to sort of understand the struggles faced by low-income communities who are on benefits like food stamps. So that's why I sort of thought about doing this challenge. So obviously, we all know what food stamps are. Food stamps are usually called the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or the SNAP. And this is like a government benefit that provides sort of nutritional assistance to eligible low-income families and individuals. And since 2006, there have been like a number of celebrities and politicians who have sort of undertaken the food stamp challenge, where they have sort of attempted to live on like the average weekly allocation of about $21 a week in order to like raise awareness about issues that affect people who are food insecure or undernourished. And this actually is like an initiative of an organization called the Food Action and Research Council, or the FARC, which is a nonprofit that sort of works to sort of create public policy, and it creates like a private and public partnership to eradicate hunger and undernutrition from the United States. So that's what. So they actually even published that a nice little guideline for someone who wants to take part in this challenge. So before I sort of explain to you about how I did the challenge or what happened, I kind of want to talk about like TED itself. We all know that TED is about ideas that are worth sharing, and one of the ideas that I want to share is by this social theorist and economist called Jeremy Rifkin. And in sort of like a forum like this, Jeremy Rifkin made the case for like a scientific sort of case for empathy. We are usually told that like human beings are sort of naturally and inherently selfish, but Rifkin, in his talk, he said that he actually explained that a lot of sort of scientific experiments and theories have sort of proved that human beings are in fact sort of soft-wired to experience other people's plight as if it was their own. So this idea of the fact that there's like a scientific basis for empathy has been absolutely instrumental in sort of shaping my worldview. So if, according to Rifkin, human beings are all wired for empathy, one would sort of naturally conclude that we would be empathetic towards people that are hungry, right? Because hunger is something that we have all felt, And for instance, someone like myself who places such a high value on the idea of empathy would sort of be naturally sort of empathetic towards people who are impoverished or sort of undernourished. But the thing is, like, that's not the case, because if you think that if that was the case, then wouldn't we see sort of a more concentrated effort to get rid of hunger, like to eliminate it systematically? But we don't see that. And if that was the case, why do we see that whenever there's like a budget cut, or whenever someone says that there's like a budget deficit and something needs to be cut, like nutritional benefits and food benefits are the first things that they cut, So my sort of idea in doing this challenge was to maybe try to be more empathic towards a sort of population that is like often marginalized and often maligned, and a population that we don't really think about that often. So with that in mind, so I sort of embarked on the challenge. So I decided to follow the guidelines that was set by the FARC, which were like I would be able to spend $21 a week for food and beverages. I would not, if I ate out or ate like a fast food restaurant or something, I would have to sort of include that in my budget. I would not have, I couldn't accept food from like anybody else. I couldn't accept free food. And so I would only be able to consume food that I had bought specifically for the challenge. So if I had food that I had bought previously, I wouldn't be able to consume that unless it was, let's say, like a condiment or a spice or like oil. So apart from that, I would just have to consume food that I had specifically bought for the challenge. And another one of the things that the guideline says is that I had to keep track of like all my spending. So with all of that in mind, I sort of headed down to like my local Trader Joe's, and I had a budget of like $21, but I did not like strategize at all. I just thought that $21 would be like plenty for me to for the week. So I just went into Trader Joe's and I just did what I usually do, like went around the aisles, tried to think what I could get. So first of all, I got a bag of rice, and then I got some chicken, and I got like a bag of onions, some cloves of garlic, and Trader Joe's has these like delicious like chicken dumplings. So I got like 2 bags of chicken dumplings, and I got some fresh tomatoes, and I got two packs of like pasta. And some pasta sauce, and like about a half a dozen bananas. But when I sort of did the math and I calculated before I checked out, the total came to about like $28. So I reluctantly like had to give up 1 bag of dumplings, and then I sort of had to like change the fresh tomatoes for like canned tomatoes. So like the fresh tomatoes cost like $5, and then the canned tomatoes were like the tomato paste was like 89 cents. So it totally made sense to do that for me. So that's what I did, and that sort of took care of my tomato needs for the week. So so I checked out. It came sort of right under $21. And so that sort of Sunday, I went and I sort of made a big pot of rice and made like chicken curry, which is what we Nepalis eat all the time. So I sort of decided to eat as little as possible, just so that I would have a lot of food sort of left over for at least like a couple of days. So the chicken curry lasted me through Monday, and so it lasted me through Monday, and on Tuesday I just made some pasta, and sort of the difficulty of being on a limited food budget did not really hit home until like Wednesday during lunchtime. So on Wednesday, like I woke up late, and I was sort of running late to get to work, so I forgot to eat like my banana and in the morning, and I forgot the Tupperware full of pasta that I had saved for lunch. So at lunch, like all my coworkers had like this eclectic array of food. It was smelling so good. I was like salivating, but I didn't have enough money to order from a restaurant. So I was just sitting in the corner and just like feeling miserable and just like drooling. And like my coworker asked me, dude, why are you not eating anything? Like, what's up? And I was like, well, I forgot my lunch at home. And she sort of generously offered me to have lunch, but I could not. So I had to sort of explain to her why I wasn't eating the food that she was giving me. And when I told her about the challenge, like I became an object of like fascination and ridicule at the same time at work. But I mean, I felt the effects. Like at work, I sort of noticed that I was like a little lethargic. My stomach was growling, and I was kind of irritable, and it just felt like a long time, and I couldn't wait to go home, So I sort of felt like that. But I made it through, and for like Thursday and Friday, I sort of switched between eating like just fried rice, where I put like caramelized onions and some garlic to make it taste better, and I had some pasta again. And on Friday, like I was invited to go out to a friend's like birthday, but of course I couldn't accept any free food, so I kind of made an excuse and told them that I was sick, so I didn't go to my friend's birthday. So and on Saturday, I sort of was coming to an end of my challenge, so I decided to treat myself to the bag of dumplings. So I did finish the bag of dumplings, and I had basically pretty much completed the challenge. So as I was laying in bed, I sort of tried to think to myself if this experience had made me more empathic towards people who are on food stamps and stuff like that. And I sort of realized, or I came to the conclusion that even though I had understood, like partially, how difficult it was to live on like a limited food budget, I don't think I could sort of grasp the debilitating nature of life on food stamps and life when you're like hungry in like a systemic basis. And the reason why I realized that I wasn't empathic was not because I hadn't felt like I hadn't, experienced hunger previously or something, because, like everybody has experienced hunger. It was because we have this sort of dominant ideology that is prevalent in this country that sort of emphasizes personal inadequacies as being causes for issues such as hunger and poverty. So that was why sort of I was ignorant of like the issues that hungry people face, because we're constantly told in this country that you can be as successful as you want. All you have to do is work hard. No country in the world embodies this meritocratic ideal like America, right? So, but that has like an effect on people's perception of people who are unsuccessful, right? So, for instance, like a famous philosopher, his name, I always mess up his name, but his name is like Alain de Botton or something. He's like Swiss. And then, so basically what he says is that the cruel logic to a meritocracy is that if you believe that someone merits their success, you automatically have to believe that that person merits their failures as well, right? So, so that's like the issue with meritocracy. So basically, I think what I was thinking was, I didn't think that people who were hungry and poor and were like food insecure were that not because of issues that was beyond their control, but it was because they sort of almost chose to be that way. At least that's how we usually like think along the lines of, right? But the problem with that is that's not how it works. Like that's not how someone becomes hungry, right? There are many factors that contribute to a person going hungry. Like, these factors are like very varied, and an analysis of each one would sort of be beyond the scope of this like talk. But I think it's important to sort of realize that factors as varied as like the decline in labor market and the collapse of the unions, which goes like hand in hand with how a lot of working people these days aren't paid like living wage, affects people like ending up hungry, So, and also like things like, how expensive like healthcare is, and how people are uninsured. Like that's how people become hungry, because a lot of times people can't afford their hospital bills, and they have to end up in bankruptcy, and they can't afford food, And even things like homelessness and near homelessness and other things like crime and incarceration, all of these have all of these factor into someone going hungry. But like I said, we still in this country are disposed to the fact that an individual is responsible for his or her economic situation. So when I was doing the food stamp challenge, although I was doing it thinking that I was trying to get empathy, I don't think I would I don't think I ever was able to sort of duplicate the realities and circumstances of life that accompanies, or of the situations that accompany life on food stamps, because there are so many things that people who are straddled, who are on food stamps are straddled with, and I wasn't straddled with any of those, you know. So for example, I wasn't destitute. Like, I had an apartment, I had a kitchen, I had a pantry full of spices and condiments to make my food taste better, for which I could pay with my living wage, with the wage I earned. And I had healthcare, so I had no risk of, you know, being bankrupt or something like that. And I wasn't hungry for the previous week or the previous month that a lot of people who suffer from chronic hunger suffer from, you know. So I hadn't suffered from any of that. So basically, I came to the conclusion that I don't think I would be completely able to understand, like, the frustration, the exhaustion, and the humiliation of being on food stamps, not being able to provide for your family by yourself on, like, week after grueling week and month after grueling month, you know. So, basically, for me, what I realized from this experience is the only way that I could show empathy towards people who are undernourished and people who are suffering from food insecurity is to realize that there are sort of a lot of structural issues that lead to food insecurity and undernutrition. You know, so as much as, like, activities such as the food stamp challenge, they probably raise awareness, especially when done by celebrities and politicians. They might raise awareness about how little food stamp actually is, like how it's like $21 a week. That's not a lot. And it might also make us feel like we are doing something, but I don't think it's a substitute for actually addressing, like, the systemic and the underlying, like, structural causes that cause food insecurity. And for me, I think the foremost step in, like, addressing the structural cause is actually to reject this, like, ideological notion and realize that an individual has nothing to do with him going hungry, you know, because nobody wants to go hungry, you know. Who would want to go hungry? So I think that is the way that I can show empathy to the hungry poor. So yeah, that's what I realized through my experience.